Hi everyone. Is this on my laptop? Okay, thanks for coming. Appreciate the time, space to just attend all the other creators here. So let's get into it. My name is Mark. This is my handle. There isn't really a significant meaning behind my name. This was actually a nickname I got in JC, so this has been my handle from the start. But one thing for sure is this name has kind of been consistent throughout until now. My whole profile, my films is really about my life. And for me, I have done different projects over the course of the last 2 or 3 years. But at the end, or at the core of it all, my origin is still a kid wanting to make my life more exciting, making my life more of a movie. So this is my origin story, just really documenting my life, trying to make every moment as best I can into a movie or into an episode of hopefully a very exciting life. For me, and if you followed me from the start, my journey with Sony has been quite a crash course for me, from joining a competition and now working with them. But for me, the most important thing that I kind of gained from all this is being able to find a creative community. I think a couple weeks ago, I organized a photo walk, and this was something on my own. I just wanted to bring people together. I think some of you in the audience was also there with me. But this is an extension of how I felt the last 2 or 3 years. Really just finding people online, becoming friends. Some of my favorite creative humans are here in the audience as well. And these are the people that also inspire me to keep going. So, what are we doing today? We are going to talk about storytelling, which is a very big part of my journey and my style of video filmmaking. And then you don't have, or at least for myself, as a filmmaker, you have to talk about the cinematography element to it. So, if you guys had attended Wesley's session just now on photos, take my session as kind of like the video format of it. I like to call Wesley Uncle Wesley. So, Uncle Wesley. But yeah, my sharing today is really about myself, how I approach storytelling, how I approach cinematography in my own very way. And let's kick it off. So, I have nothing without the gear I use. Not that the gear makes me, but the gear has also elevated me. So I just wanted to share on Sony's behalf also what are the gears that have really helped me grow in the last 2 or 3 years. Firstly, is Alpha 7 IV. So this is the first and probably the best hybrid camera that Sony has. And for me, I used it in 2022 mainly for my exchange, so my study abroad. I was in Stockholm. So these are actually the trains in Stockholm, the train stations in Sweden. And it allowed me to learn things like S-Log3, it allowed me to really push myself. I was pretty much the only guy in my group of friends holding a camera, so it really got me to really get all my friends as a part of my journey on exchange and really level up myself. But then, one camera that has always been a big part of my dream setup is the FX3, which is Cinema 9. And this camera for me has been a game changer because I've really learned how to better live my life as a movie and document it as such. I've learned how to use proper cinematography basics, terminologies, and for me, this whole experience of using the camera in the last 1.5 years, 2 years has been super fulfilling. Enough of gear talk. Let's talk about storytelling. So, how many of you here are interested? You probably are interested here. But how many of you here maybe have tried storytelling? Thank you. Tried storytelling in the last year or so? Anyone? Okay, great. So at least you know that we have a similar thing in mind. I want to talk about what storytelling is to me, which is something that does run deeper than just visuals. At the end of the day, the films that I want to create, it's all about delivering relatability, and in some ways I want to resonate with you guys. So whatever I'm shooting in terms of my content, my films, it's really a part of my life, whether it's my experiences, whether it's something that was through a conversation with a friend, or even something that was I've seen on the street or wherever I travel. So this is something that has been kind of a core point whenever I'm trying to tell my stories. So how do I tell my stories? This is my breakdown. I'm going to share a couple examples of, in more recent memory, how I actually try and post my things online. And if you follow me, these are kind of the things you've seen before. There's this thing that I kind of came up with maybe about a year ago, which is called everyday screenplays. So if you're a huge movie fanatic or film fanatic, you know that every movie starts with a screenplay. There's always a script, the the setting, exterior, interior, where the location is, and what the characters are doing. So for me, traveling so much, I decided why not we take some of my travels, the videos that I take, and the side and main characters that I film into mini stories. So this is a trip to Hong Kong with some of my friends. And as we were traveling and just taking in the visuals and scenery of Hong Kong, I told myself, oh, why not let's imagine what is actually happening in those scenarios. So for example, the uncle reading newspaper out there, trying to make it to like a script format. Or even these elderly people that also play their game. These are some of the things that I've also tried from a more subtle way to create storytelling elements out of it. What else? On Instagram, the big thing that everyone likes to post are video postcards. Whether it's through just travel visuals, whether it's through memories from an event. For me, I like to use it as a way to be more reflective. And it comes with things that I really feel about when I travel. So this was a trip to Korea. And I think one thing that I really kind of took in for myself is there's a privilege to everything that I go through. And really, what are these different privileges that I have? So for me, you know what a privilege it is to try new things, to chase sunsets, which is a big part of my life. These are things that I like to pair my visuals with. And lastly, which I think many of you would know me for, is what I call narrative films. So for me, sharing stories through my visuals, and otherwise, attaching some form of reflection or emotional themes to my films. So what we're going to do today is also share with you how I approach my storytelling, how I approach my films, and kind of put things together, okay? So we talk about films, and this is one of the films recently I did for Sony. Some of you may have seen it. It's for the recent camera, the Cinematography FX2, and I just wanted to give you a sensing of how I built that piece. So take it away.
Is life always going to feel this Monday? You wake up, go through the motions, repeat. But I think I found a way out of that loop. Inside my mind, I'm starting to see the cinematic potential in everything. To make life more cinematic, maybe it starts with seeing yourself as the main character. Just maybe save the daydreaming for after class. Imagination can help you see the world a little differently. What if art doesn't just have to stay in museums? What if it's already all around us, just waiting to be framed? That's when it shifted for me. Everyday life can also look more cinematic. The ordinary moments can look extraordinary. And it's the simplest experiences that can feel the most cinematic. My dream has always been to turn my life into a series of films, where every moment feels like a scene from a screenplay, and to share those moments with the world. With each film I make, I'm one step closer to that dream. Because the way we tell our stories shapes the way we lead our lives.
So that's the video with the latest FX2. And so a lot of people ask me, actually, how do you plan the videos? Do you start with the script? Do you start with the visuals? Which one is it? So my answer to that is actually kind of both. In this kind of more branded, more projects where I have a bit more time for pre-production, I will plan the script first. I'll plan the storyboarding first, and then I'll do the visuals. But let's say, for example, you're traveling, you're at an event, you don't have the time to really pre-plan beforehand. So actually, my approach is to do the reverse, to create the visuals first, and then build the narrative from there. So one thing which can be a bit dangerous or difficult is you don't know what exactly you're shooting. So how do you turn that into something that's more of a narrative or a story? So this is what we're trying to do today. But all I want to share for this is that it's actually a very interchangeable process. You can start with the script and then build your visuals, or you can start with visuals first and then build your script from there. And this is how I do it. One thing that I really like to do is whenever I travel, I just constantly shoot. And for me, it's very interesting because one thing I've seen recently online, I don't know if you've seen it, there's this interview done by Tyler, the creator, and he said that when you create like a kid, and then edit like a scientist. So for me, it's also very interesting because I want to immerse myself in the experience, and then from there, when I'm sitting at my table at back home, looking at all the footage, I'm trying to be a bit more strategic in how I kind of put my clips around. So this is one such example. This is my experience last year at Sony Kando, and it's not just my voice you will hear, it will be including two of my favorite creatives as well, so you can take a look.
Kando is the name for a recent adventure with Sony, and it means to fill the world with emotion.
It was a chance for us to be re-inspired again and witness over 100 creators come together to create something special. It unlocked a whole new experience for us, connecting with other creators across the different countries and their cultures.
Exposing ourselves to new styles, perspectives, and just learning about how different creators relate to their art.
For a region so diverse and special, the people we met felt so familiar. All of us just embodied the essence of being a creator.
It also taught us to worry less about the missed opportunities and focus on creating new ones for ourselves, especially with the new friends we made.
All we wanted to do is to capture people's stories all around us and fill the world with the emotions we carry with us along the way. After this trip is a reminder that we're not walking alone. In fact, we're running together towards our goals. So here's to staying connected and making every adventure feel like.
And then it loops the video. If you're on Instagram, you will understand. But one thing that I took from Wesley's sharing session just now, which is about the word emotion, and I think it's something that's also very clear in my sharing session right now, is focusing on when you're telling a story, what's the emotion and what's the theme that you want to build on. And for me, a story can be as simple as a shift in that emotion. So it can be something like going from hopelessness to hope, going from when you were in COVID, being in solitude to finding your community. It can be something as complex. It doesn't actually have to be complex, but it can be as well. But the emotion is something that I've always tried to focus on whenever I'm doing my films. And I think this is something that I want to also bring across today. In every one of my films, I would like to focus on what's the emotion I have, what reflections I have. At the end of the day, how do you, as my viewer on my films, how do I want to make you feel? And I think that's something for me, very important in everything I do. So we talk about the emotion. Is it something that in a very grand place, you actually feel so small, like here in China, in Beijing? Or is it something that you feel big within your community? You feel a sense of belonging. That's something that I always think about whenever I do my films. There's a lot of words here. I was yapping as I was kind of creating these slides. But for me, I do want everyone when they're watching my films to have some kind of takeaway. It could be that emotion that I'm talking about, like yearning, like regret, or it could be just understanding how I was really feeling in that experience that I'm sharing, and really just going from there. So once I decide what theme that I want to focus on, it helps me to decide what kind of story I want to tell and influence the way I tell my story. And with that, we go to the next more important part, which is creating the film. So the cinematography part of it. So as a precursor, I'm not trained in production. Everything I've learned has really been through YouTube, through the creative friends around me, and really going back and forth within those two realms and just learning as I go. So whatever I'm sharing here is not professional knowledge, but it's really how I've learned to really improve and make my life continue to feel like I'm living in a movie. and taking aspects from the films I watch, from the films that my friends create, and incorporating into my life and my films as well. So wherever I travel, it's not just for the visuals, but I always try to dive deep into the moments where I feel a certain something, and then kind of pairing it with wherever I travel. So at the end of the day, if my life is a movie, I want everyone to be a part of it. So if you're in a theater, I want you to experience it with me, like kind of what we're doing right now. So with that being said, how do I bridge the story with the visuals? We talked a lot about the emotion, the story part of it, which I'll continue later. But how do we approach it as someone who does the video part? I'm going to talk about kind of the more technical side of things, but also kind of give a sensing of actually how I will approach these technicals. So actually, it's not super scary. You just need time to practice and learn, and then you eventually get there. So number one is composition. What are ways that you could really approach your shots to make it more meaningful to your story? And with this being said, the way I approach it is to actually have each shot mean something to me. And this is what I mean. Let's talk about the ultra-wide shot. In a place like here in Chiang Mai, one thing that really stood out to me is the scale of the place. Where I feel, as much as with friends traveling, I really felt so small in this space. And so an ultra-wide shot, from a filmmaking point of view, can make you give that impression or significance of scale or isolation. And then you have the wide shot, where it can also be your establishing shot. So in your films, you might hear this word establishing. It's basically to give your viewer an understanding of where you are in the film. And then you have the close-up shot. So a close-up shot is focusing a lot more on details of the space or wherever you're in, also creating a sense of intimacy. And then you also have the ultra close-up shot. It could be close-up your eye, close-up your mouth, close-up of the details of the animals that Cedric and Sakia just now talked about in their presentation. But it also not just gives a sense of intimacy, but it also can create tension as well. If let's say you're talking in your film, you're creating a film about anxiety, maybe a close-up eye shot could be something worth considering. So let's talk about movement. If you just not watched this film and you thought, oh, it's not doing Muay Thai, yes, I did Muay Thai. I'm still doing it, just not recently. But this is an experience of my life that I wanted to incorporate into my film with Sony, and this is what I did. So for movement, I'm assuming everyone here owns a tripod? Yes. This is the best way if you're traveling alone to shoot. Just find a tripod, you walk, clip farm, whatever you call it. But essentially it's to really show a sense of stillness and that you're really being part of the space. But if you have the luxury of a friend with you, a partner with you, you can do a lot more than that. You can create what you call a pushing shot. So my friend Marcus helped me with this in Hong Kong, which is just using a 24-70 lens from a 24mm just zooming into 70mm. And this is my intro shot for a video. This is the way to create, this is the start of the story, and creating focus to the character, which is myself. You have the handheld shot, which in my point of view creates a lot more, realism to show that yes, I'm actually in this space. It's not scripted. I'm just capturing myself. And then you also have using handheld shots to create more energy and more chaos, as opposed to a static tripod shot. So when you hold a camera and just move, follow someone around, you really follow and adapt to that emotion as well. And you can also expand it to what I call a tracking shot. So let's say the character in focus is me, and this is in Grand Central Station in New York. I asked my sis to just follow me and have the camera follow me as I walk into it. It's a little bit like a 90s film, but it really helps to sell the story that, this is the start of a story. Just walking. Okay, more. Now I talk about color. For me, I am very big on strong colors. Not necessarily just like the rainbow of colors, but the deep, rich tones. And I try to incorporate as much as I can into my films. So it includes like the outfits I wear, what kind of contrast, what kind of complementary colors I can approach it with. But not just the outfits and the colors and tones you try to create, which a lot of production people do it. You can also have the emotional part to it. So if you're talking about, more orange, more pinks, it creates a bit more warmth, more nostalgia, more comfort, more hope. But on the flip side, we talk about orange and teal, right? Teal, cool colors, blue, dark, moody, it creates a sense of calm, melancholy, isolation, something that, in the comparison that Wesley did in his photos, kind of the same thing, right? Warmth versus more cool, moodiness. So that's for color, and this is another approach you can use to tell your story. One thing, I had a workshop a couple of weeks back with Sony, and it was about talking on how you should film, or how you can film while on your travels. And one thing that always ran in my head when I was preparing that workshop was the idea of when you travel, ideally you hope for a sunset, you hope for a sunrise. But if it rains, oh that's it, I'm not shooting. But that's not true. You can always create a story out of it. Even if it's rain, you can create a moodiness out of it. In the same way, like later you'll be hearing from Antoine, who's talking about F1. When you're filming, ideally you hope it's a nice sunset ray or it's a bright daylight, you get your focus. But at the same time, when there's rain on the race, there's more drama, there's more tension, there's hopefully, but as a viewer, there's more crashes. And that also helps to create even more interest, right? So yeah, next thing is lighting. So for me, one thing I've learned from my friends and on YouTube is to always shoot on the shadow side, every single time. Why I say this is because there's always a lot more depth you can create with it. There's a lot more, the word overly used as cinematic, but at the same time, it will just create a bit more separation between your subject and your background. And I like to take it one further because sometimes I'm too, as much as I show a lot of my face, sometimes I don't want to show my face. So I like to rely on silhouettes a lot. It creates a bit of mystery, but also creates a sense of focus. So that the only thing you can focus on is either me or my friends, and just the colors that come from the background. So that's another approach you can use to tell your story. And last thing is pacing. So everyone, when you're doing films, when you first start off, myself included, you find a song that you like, and then you're editing according to the beat, right? So for example, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. But sometimes it can be very repetitive. If you're in wedding films, that's something that a lot of photographers or filmmakers would say. And so how do you change that? Maybe playing around the dynamic of your videos. So it could be fast-paced, and then a long-ass, slow kind of clip, and then it really dives focus into your visual. So what I mean by this is a series of just clips I put together, and it's very fast-paced. For me, the theme was finding your wind, but it's a very fast-paced video, or relatively fast-paced, and that's the energy I want to create with my films. But in this same time, or amount of time or duration that I created this film, I can also show you a slow-paced one of just me on a train in New York, and you just focus on the colors of the train, the shakiness of the train. When one of my friends watched this, she scolded me for leaning on the dirty train window. But you only can catch this if you have a good 10 seconds of duration of this. And this is something that you could also consider when you're spacing out your clips, right? So yeah, we talked about the technical side of it. And this is how I want to pair things together. So there are a lot of words here. Couple weeks, maybe not weeks, 1 week ago I asked on Instagram, what are some emotions that I could really focus on to create a film out of it? So I asked people online to kind of just tell me what they want to see, and I'll find a visual from my past travels or archives to create a story from it. So some of these words maybe are things that you will consider when you're creating a film. For me, it doesn't just have to be one word as well. It doesn't have to be one theme or emotion. It can actually be a few, put them together, and create a piece out of it. So one example that I'm going to show you is this. I use 3 themes, 3 words: bittersweetness, gratitude, and nostalgia, which is something that's in a lot of my films. What scene did I use? A random sunrise hike that I found that I had with my friend Paolo, who's another content creator in the UK. I had not seen him for quite a few months, and then the last time I met him was the first time I met him. When I was in LA and New York in April this year, I was on a plane, and then I texted him, "Oh, I'm going to be in LA." And he's like, "Oh, no way, when? Today. Oh, I'm coming tomorrow. Shall we meet? Let's meet." literally, on a family trip, I only have like 3 or 4 days with my family before we go to New York. What do I do? And he suggested, oh, why not we do something where the family is still sleeping. Let's go for a 6 a.m. hike in a place that I've never been. I've not been to the States before. But I was like, you know what? I've not seen him in a long time. Let's do it. Because I don't know when's the chance I'll get. So that was the feeling I had as I approached that memory. And that was the concept that came out of it. The idea of distant friendships. And with those emotions I had, the reflection I had, as well as the visuals I shot, without even thinking from the experience with Paulo, this is something that I just created last night. I just edited last night. I just sent it to him. He's not replied me. But you guys get to see it first. So this is my experience with Paulo, one sunrise morning in LA.
Here's to the friendships that exist in fragments, but still feel whole. I'm talking about the ones that you immediately bond with when you first meet, but are difficult to catch up with because they are on the other side of the world. The ones that wake up and go to sleep. So if there's ever an opportunity to meet, whether in our hometowns or a random sunrise hike in the city we both don't belong to, I'll be there. Because who knows if there's even the next time. Missy Kuya, and thanks for this memory.
So we've seen it first. This is something that I want to share with him as well. Because a big part of being in a creative space and meeting people all over the world is you're bonded by the idea of being creative, but at the same time, you're living your own respective lives in your own cities, in your own time zones. So this is the piece that came out of it. And you know how I talked about like the technical side of it, like the white shots, the ultra white shots, the warm, cool tones. This is a very good example of how I broke it down. You have your ultra wide shots or your establishing shots of the landscape and where we are. You have a static shot to really show me observing the space. You have the close-up shots of my friend and myself to really immerse the viewer into the two characters that are in the film. You have the ultra close-up shot of the sunset in the distance and the kind of the backlight that it creates on myself. You have what I like to do, which is the shooting on the shadow side. So it creates a bit more distinction, and even more so when you shoot silhouettes. And lastly, it's not the fastest video, but it incorporates a bit more energy, so I wanted the film to be a bit faster, and that's what I did. So this is a very quick breakdown of whatever we talked about in the last 25 minutes, which is finding that emotion, and then adding that to, or creating a reflection from it, and then from there, finding the visuals that work best for it. So I'm finishing off. But for me, this is kind of the process I always take to always have something a part of me in my videos, and that's why it's my platform. I can do whatever I want, but at the same time, I want people to resonate with whatever I'm creating. So if you're someone that is trying to find out how to make stories, to tell stories, there are a lot of crazy storytellers in this audience as well. Friends that I know and people I follow online. But at the end of the day, these people are so strong because they found their own voice. And for me, it also took some time to be able to find my voice. And make sure that if you're someone that wants to do it, take the time to find your own voice and only your voice, because there are only stories that you can tell and no one else can. I can be someone like shooting like a documentary, doing an autobiography for someone and sharing their stories, but at the end of the day, it's not from me. That's why the only person that I can really tell stories about is myself and the people in my world. So with that being said, hopefully this has been a bit more of an enriching sharing of how I approach storytelling, how I approach cinematography in my own way, again not professional, but how I pair these two together. So thank you again for your time. And the validation, yes, like what Wesley mentioned, you know, there's a lot of scrutiny when it comes to the numbers, the engagement metrics and all that. I think at the end of the day, it's still for myself. But one thing I do to get over that is, I always think of each film I put out as a challenge, as a creative obstacle that I want to take on. the films or the stuff that I create now is very different from 2.5 years ago. Robin and the Sony team would know that my starting point is also very different. But what I've kind of pushed myself to do is, beyond the noise and beyond the occasions where I think about the numbers, I think about, did I improve somewhere from my previous video? So what I like to do for myself, which I also talked about in my my photo walk a couple weeks ago, is to always find something new that you can improve on. So for me, my color grading was crap. And it took so much time to kind of learn. So I told myself, okay, I'm going to force myself on exchange to shoot S-Log3. And then all my films have to be in S-Log3. So I'm going to calibrate everything from scratch. Was it terrible? Yes, but eventually got there. And then, okay, now that I've gotten this part, what do I do next? Oh, sound design is something I've always been interested in. Music, choosing songs. I'm going to spend my next 10 videos working on that. So for me, as much as I'm concerned with the validation part of it, I think of it as, it's still my films, it's still my creations. I'm just going to take it as a challenge and keep pushing myself. And if people like it, fine. As long as my friends like it, my family likes it, I think that's more than enough for me. Second question, if I'm the only person left on earth who I still create. I mean, if I have a camera, sure, yes, probably. The good thing is the one in my shot, I don't have to AI generate them now. But at the same time, I think the way I will approach it, which is maybe a bit more sentimental, is really start recounting whatever experiences I had in my life and start documenting them. So that at least if I'm the last person, somehow there's a new way for people to appear, at least they see my documentation of memories, which is essentially what I'm doing right now in my life. So that's my approach. Yeah. Thank you for your question. I think as I've grown up, with the inspirations I've had, so just now Cedric and Sophia talked about, like Sam Coder, there was one thing that really stood out to me because that was the era of YouTube and filmmaking I started with. And you hear a lot of like the synths and the sound effects that they use. For me, the way I approach it is I like to find this or create sound design which is very similar to movies where it's very practical. Or finding things that might sound unique yet still representative of the visual that I'm showing. So for example, I had a video recently I posted for a brand, and one part of the scene was scrolling through the number of tabs I have on my screen. In that scene, it's literally a fast whoosh of tabs on my screen. But you don't have to just use the sound design. For me, I was thinking, what can I use? So for example, like the wheels, the gear cycling, the kind of like metallic sounds, that was something I wanted to consider. Or that's maybe more of a creative way of approaching it. Maybe another example is, let's say I am at home, and if I'm not blasting music, all I hear is a clock. So sound design, that clock can be used to pace my video. So with each take, another frame, each take, another shot or maybe approach of the frame. So that's for the first question. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not answering your question. Second question is about creative burnout. I think I have experienced it quite a fair bit in the last 2 years, but especially now, I think in the last couple of months, I found myself maybe not being as happy in whatever I was creating. And why I say that is because I don't think it shows enough of my reflections and my personal self. So in this second half of the year, that's my plan, to kind of show really a new era of my artistry. But if you ask me how I approach creative burnout, it's really just surrounding yourself with people that inspire you. And in Singapore, there are so many creators out there that are connected with, whether through Sony, whether out of Sony. And these have been the people that have inspired me. Not that, I cannot manage it by myself, but it's always a nice thing to have someone talk to you. Because if not, as someone who is always an individual creative, you talk to yourself a lot. So it's a good thing to have conversations like this. Yeah. Does that answer your question? Thank you. Yeah.